The movie starts in 1968. A single mother moves into the old Marrowbone house in her hometown with her 4 children. They have left England behind to start a new life. As soon as they arrive, the mother tells the children to forget their terrifying past forever and create new memories here. She also announces that from now on, they will no longer use the last name Fairbairn. Instead, they will use her family name, Marrowbone. Hearing this, the youngest son nervously asks, "Will he ever find us?" The mother reassures him that no one will ever bother them again. After that, the family happily settles into their new home. Since they are completely new to the area, nobody knows who they are, and for the first time, they begin living their lives in freedom. One day, while the 4 siblings are exploring near the woods, they discover a strange, skull-shaped rock formation. There, they meet a girl named Allie, and before long, they become friends. Over the next several months, they spend a lot of time together and are almost always in each other's company. It seems that after everything they have been through, the Marrowbone family has finally found peace, but fate strikes them once again. Their mother suddenly falls seriously ill, and they don't have a single penny to pay for her treatment. As she lies on her deathbed, she calls her oldest son, Jack, and entrusts him with the responsibility of caring for his 3 younger siblings. She firmly instructs Jack not to tell anyone about her death until he turns 21 because, under the law, only then can he become the legal guardian of his brothers and sister. Until then, Jack and his siblings must remain hidden from everyone. Before she dies, she also tells him about a secret compartment hidden inside a wardrobe. When Jack opens the compartment, he is stunned to discover a fortune left behind by his father, money that his mother had kept hidden all those years. Moments after revealing this secret, she passes away. After their mother's death, Jack gathers all of his siblings into one room and reads them her final letter, in which she asks them to stay together no matter what happens. Jack makes each of them promise that they will never be separated. They quietly bury their mother and continue living in Marrowbone House without letting anyone know what happened. One day, while Jane is resting in her room, a bullet suddenly crashes through the window. Terrified, she looks outside and sees a man standing there with a rifle. The sight leaves her horrified, and she immediately starts calling for her older brother, Jack. The story then jumps forward by 6 months, and it appears that the siblings have put the incident behind them. By now, they have either removed all the mirrors in the house or covered them with cloth because they believe a terrifying spirit lives in the attic. Even though they think it disappeared a long time ago, they don't want to take any chances, so every mirror remains covered. Jack tries several times to go up into the attic, but every attempt ends with a severe headache, forcing him to turn back. Out of the 4 siblings, Jack is the only one who leaves the house to buy the things they need. One day, he visits the local pharmacy to pick up his mother's medicine, making it clear that he is still hiding her death from everyone. At the same time, a wound on his head becomes noticeable, although it's never explained how he got it. Afterward, he goes to the local library, where Allie works as a librarian. It is here that we learn the 2 of them are in love. Allie gives Jack a few books, so his youngest brother, Sam, can continue studying at home. But before they can talk any further, the town's lawyer, Porter, arrives at the library, bringing their conversation to an abrupt end. It turns out that Porter is secretly in love with Allie and often visits the library just to see her. But whenever he finds her alone with Jack, he can't hide his jealousy. Approaching Jack, Porter explains that he is now responsible for handling all the legal matters related to the Marrowbone estate. He tells Jack that he will be visiting their house the following day to collect the property transfer fee and obtain their mother's signature. Once that's done, the estate will legally belong to them. Jack tells him that his mother is gravely ill, so he offers to take the paperwork home and return it the next day. However, Porter refuses because he must personally verify her signature. He also informs Jack that the property transfer fee is $200. As soon as Jack gets home, he nervously tells his siblings everything. If the lawyer discovers that their mother has died, the government will separate them from one another. They don't even have enough money to pay the fee, so Billy suggests using the money their mother left behind before she died. But Jane strongly objects. She reminds Jack that he promised they would never touch that money again. Jack, however, knows they have no other choice. Since they had already thrown the box away in the woods, Billy is sent to retrieve it. He makes his way to a deserted stretch of shoreline where he discovers a narrow cave. Inside, he also notices a knife. Eventually, he finds the hidden box and immediately brings it back home. That night, the siblings open it together and discover a large amount of cash inside. Jack and Billy are relieved and overjoyed, but Jane is still upset. She insists that it is their father's cursed money. Early the next morning, all 4 siblings begin cleaning and repairing the house so it will look as though a normal family lives there. Jane is given the task of forging their mother's signature, and she spends hours practicing it. Meanwhile, Jack goes into his mother's room to collect a few things. Little Sam wants to go inside as well, but Jack firmly refuses to let him enter. A short while later, Porter arrives at the house, where Jack welcomes him. Jack hands him an envelope containing 200 pounds. The crafty lawyer gladly accepts it since it's worth much more than the $200 he had requested. Jack then explains that his mother's condition has become much much worse, and that she doesn't want anyone to see her like this. He asks Porter to let him take the documents upstairs so he can get his mother's signature and return right away. After a brief hesitation, Porter hands over the paperwork, and Jack quickly heads upstairs to his mother's room. Meanwhile, Jane becomes increasingly anxious when she realizes there are not one but two different documents that need to be signed. At the same time, Porter starts looking around the house on his own. Not seeing anyone else in the house, he grows suspicious. Near the staircase, he notices a mirror covered with a cloth and pulls the cloth away. A few moments later, he slowly begins walking toward the mother's room. Upstairs, Jack hears his footsteps and, in a panic, urges Jane to hurry. Fortunately, they finish forging both signatures just in time, and Porter remains completely unaware of their deception. Afterward, Porter signs the documents himself, officially transferring ownership of the estate to the Marrowbone siblings. Before leaving, he also mentions their father and hints that he had committed terrible acts in the past. It becomes clear that Porter knows the entire history of the Marrowbone family. That night, the four siblings celebrate by playing a pirate-themed board game. During the game, Billy gets so excited that his die bounces into the next room. Little Sam slowly walks into the darkness to retrieve it, but as soon as he reaches the staircase, the cloth covering the mirror suddenly falls to the floor. Terrified by what he sees, Sam screams that the ghost has returned. The moment Jack hears this, he panics and quickly hides all of his siblings inside the secret fort they built within the house. The three siblings huddle together in fear, waiting anxiously, while Jack steps forward to cover the mirror again. Climbing up the staircase, he struggles to drape the cloth back over it, but the moment he peers through a hole in the ceiling, when Jack regains consciousness, he finds himself back inside the secret fort the siblings built together. Billy tells him that he passed out, so they had to carry him back. Jane becomes convinced that the ghost has returned because they used their father's cursed money. The very next morning, Billy climbs onto the roof, opens the chimney cap, and throws the box of money inside. Now the box remains hidden in the attic, lying there alongside the ghost. Meanwhile, Porter runs into Allie on her way to work and offers her a ride in his car. At first, Allie refuses, but after he repeatedly insists, she finally agrees. During the drive, Porter brings up the Marrowbone siblings. He says he's concerned about the children because they keep themselves isolated and never seem to socialize with anyone in the area. He also points out that little Sam doesn't even attend school. Allie explains that Sam is homeschooled and that she personally checks on his education every month. Porter says that the children's unusual lives are all because of their father. Allie already knows their father was a cruel man, but Porter says that calling him cruel doesn't even begin to describe what he really was. That evening, Jack takes Sam over to the window and teaches him how to communicate with Allie using Morse code. They exchange messages by flashing a flashlight back and forth. Jack, Sam, and Allie are all delighted to be able to communicate this way. The next morning, Jack and Allie spend some time together near the beach, where Allie once again asks about his father. Jack grows visibly uncomfortable, but he finally tells her that his father was a monster who committed horrific acts too terrible to even speak about. He says that those crimes were the reason they had to flee England and come here. Allie then asks if his father is still in England, but Jack replies that he is dead and can never hurt their family again. The two then share a loving kiss, but unfortunately, Porter witnesses everything from a distance, his jealousy growing even stronger. When Jack returns home, Billy blocks his path. Furious, Billy tells him that he's trapped inside the house like a prisoner, while Jack is free to go outside whenever he wants. The siblings had all agreed that Jack would only leave the house in case of an emergency, but now he's secretly going out just to meet Allie. The argument quickly escalates into a heated fight, and suddenly Jack begins to feel weak, as if all the strength is draining from his body. Later that evening, while Jack is taking a bath, Sam quietly steals his keys and sneaks into their late mother's room, where every mirror has been covered with cloth. Sam misses his mother so much that he decides to ignore Jack's warning and enter the room. As he tries to close the curtains, he suddenly slips and falls. At that very moment, the cloth covering the wardrobe mirror mysteriously slips off by itself, and Sam looks straight into the mirror, where he sees the terrifying ghost. In the next scene, Jack wakes up to find all three of his siblings badly shaken. Jane tells him that Sam secretly went into their mother's room and saw the ghost. For the first time, the truth is finally revealed. The ghost they have feared all this time is none other than their own father. He had tracked them all the way from England, intending to kill every one of them, but the siblings managed to trap him inside the attic and sealed the entrance with bricks, leaving him to slowly starve to death. Jane suggests that they should give their father a proper burial so his spirit can finally rest in peace, but Jack refuses outright. Meanwhile, Porter visits the library once again to see Allie. He tells her that he was supposed to be transferred to another city for a much higher position. Taking advantage of the moment, he asks Allie to start a new life with him. He promises that he'll make her happy, but Allie politely rejects him, saying she has never seen him that way. Porter realizes that she's turning him down because of Jack, so before leaving, He hands her a case file about the Marrowbone siblings. After he leaves, Allie opens the file, and for the first time, she learns a horrifying truth. She discovers that the siblings' father, Mr. Fairbairn, was a dangerous serial killer responsible for murdering countless people. Not only that, he had also abused his own daughter, Jane. Eventually, Jack testified against him in court, which led to his imprisonment. But only a few months later, Fairbairn somehow managed to escape from prison. Back at the house, Jane is busy with her daily chores when she suddenly hears the sounds of her pet raccoon coming from the attic. She reaches her hand through a hole in the wall to feed it, but suddenly, something terrifying grabs her hand from the other side. Before she can save her raccoon, something drags it deeper into the attic. Meanwhile, Porter receives a phone call from his boss, who informs him that his transfer has been canceled. Instead, the firm wants to make him an official partner by purchasing a 10% ownership stake. However, becoming a partner requires $5,000, money that he simply doesn't have. As soon as the call ends, he loses his temper and starts throwing things around his office. Just then, his eyes fall on an old newspaper article stating that the 10,000 pounds stolen by Fairbairn were never recovered. The moment he reads that, Porter realizes the money must still be with the Marrowbone siblings. He immediately heads to their house and confronts Jack. Porter tells Jack that he knows everything about the forged signatures. Unless Jack hands over the 10,000 pounds, he'll expose everything to the authorities. After Porter leaves, Jack goes back inside, where his siblings are already waiting anxiously. In despair, Jack tells them that everything is over because the box of money is still in the attic, and there's no way to get it back. But Billy refuses to give up. That night, after everyone has gone to sleep, Billy quietly climbs onto the roof. He removes the chimney cap, ties a rope around himself, and slowly lowers himself into the attic. Once inside, he lights a match so he can see his surroundings. He finds the half-eaten remains of animals, along with a container used to collect rainwater. After searching for quite some time, he finally finds the box of money and starts making his way back. But suddenly he hears movement, and a terrifying figure steps out of the darkness. To Billy's horror, it's their own father, who has somehow managed to stay alive all this time. Panicked, Billy desperately begins climbing back up the rope, but his father grabs the rope from below and starts pulling it down. During the struggle, Billy becomes badly tangled in the rope, and the box of money falls back into the attic. Fortunately, he uses his knife to cut himself free and somehow manages to climb back onto the roof. The next morning, Jack wakes up to find himself lying on the floor, injured and barely able to move. He notices that Billy is badly hurt as well. Billy tells him that he went into the attic to retrieve the money but failed. Jack is even more shocked when Billy reveals that their father is still alive. He survived all this time by collecting rainwater and eating rats. The moment Jack hears this, his condition suddenly takes a turn for the worse. He collapses to the floor and suffers a violent seizure. Jane somehow manages to help him through it, but she now realizes that her brother's health has become dangerously fragile. Because of Jack's worsening condition, Jane suggests that they finally tell Allie the truth. She believes that at this point, Allie is the only person who can help him. That same night, they contact Allie through Morse code and send her a message asking her to meet them at the skull-shaped rock formation the next day. The following morning, Allie happily arrives at the location, excited because she hasn't seen them in quite some time. But instead of finding the siblings there, she discovers only a book with the title Our Story written on the cover. She begins reading, and from the opening pages, she learns how the family came to America and started a new life there. Meanwhile, Porter arrives at Marrowbone House to collect his money, but he finds neither Jack nor anyone else. The entire house feels unusually silent and unsettling. Taking advantage of the empty house, he enters the mother's room, where he finally becomes convinced that she died a long time ago. Moments later, his attention is drawn to the entrance to the attic, which has been completely sealed off with bricks. Porter assumes that the box of money must be hidden behind the wall, so he grabs a hammer and begins smashing through it. As Allie continues reading the book, she reaches the part where a man suddenly appears outside Marrowbone House and fires a shot through a window. At that moment, the film shifts into a flashback, revealing that the man was none other than Fairbairn, who had come all the way from England with the intention of killing his own children. As the oldest sibling, Jack locks all of his brothers and sisters inside the attic and goes out alone to confront his father. He takes the box of money and shows it to Fairbairn because he believes that the stolen fortune is what his father wants. The moment Fairbairn sees the box, he signals for Jack to follow him into the woods. The two eventually reach a deserted area near the shoreline, where Jack offers him the money and begs him to leave their family alone forever. But Fairbairn is a mentally unstable, ruthless, and vengeful man man. He immediately attacks Jack. Fighting for his life, Jack stabs his father in the neck with a knife and manages to escape. However, a short time later, Fairbairn catches up with him on top of a high cliff. In an act of shocking brutality, he pushes Jack over the edge and sends him crashing down below. Believing Jack to be dead, Fairbairn heads back to the house to kill the remaining children. He enters the attic through the chimney and attacks his own sons and daughter. Sometime later, Jack regains consciousness. Despite suffering a severe head injury, he rushes back to save his siblings. But when he finally reaches the attic, he is met with complete silence. The story then returns to the present day, where Porter finally breaks through the wall and enters the attic. What he finds is horrifying. The decomposed bodies of Billy, Jane, and Sam have been lying there for years. A flashback reveals that when Jack found his siblings dead, he didn't open the attic. Instead, he sealed the entire space shut with bricks, trapping everything inside forever. Afterward, he decides to take his own life, but at the last moment, he begins hearing the voices of his siblings. When he enters the secret fort they built together, he sees them alive, laughing, and playing as if nothing had happened. At that moment, his mind accepts the illusion that they are still alive. From that day forward, Jack covers every mirror in the house, so he will never be forced to confront the reality that he is completely alone. As the years pass, his three siblings gradually become separate personalities inside his mind. That is why Porter never saw anyone else in the house. In reality, Jack was the only living person there, and he was the only one who ever left the house. Meanwhile, after learning the full truth, Allie is devastated and breaks down in tears. She immediately rushes to Marrowbone House, where she finds Jack sitting inside the secret fort, talking to the siblings who exist only in his mind. She tries to bring him back to reality, but Jack refuses to accept that his brothers and sister are dead. He screams at her and orders her to leave. As Allie walks out, she notices the broken entrance to the attic. When she climbs inside, she is horrified to discover the badly decomposed bodies of the children. There she also finds Porter, whose throat has been savagely wounded. At that moment, Allie realizes she is not alone in the attic. Before she can escape, Fairbairn, weak, starving, and barely alive, slams the door shut. She finally comes face to face with the father who somehow survived all those years while trapped inside the attic. Panicking, Allie calls out for Jack, but he doesn't respond. Desperate, she begins calling for the other personalities living inside Jack's mind. Her plan works. The personality of Billy emerges and decides to help her. Meanwhile, Fairbairn lunges at Allie and nearly strangles her to death. But at the last possible moment, Jack arrives. With a single gunshot, he finally brings the nightmare to an end. The film then jumps forward several months. It is revealed that Allie has chosen to stay with Jack so she can care for the man she loves. A doctor tells Allie to make sure Jack takes his medication on time so that his alternate personalities do not return. But Allie chooses not to follow that advice. She knows that Jack feels happier when he can still sense the presence of his siblings, so she allows him to continue living with those comforting illusions. In the film's final scene, Jack watches Billy, Jane, and Sam laughing and running through the fields, and the movie ends there.